During the 90s and into the early 2000s, there was a huge boom in the credit industry. More consumers than ever before had access to credit, which was great. However, over time, some of these consumers started to experience debt problems, which was no longer great as they could not afford to make payments towards their debt. Many South Africans are unfortunately known to have a culture of not drawing up a budget or not saving for rainy days. But to top it all, life can really be unpredictable. And as we have seen from the impact of COVID, people can lose jobs or face a medical emergency overnight. And as a result, this can lead to financial or debt problems. So it became obvious that the existing credit-related legislations and solutions were not enough to meet and balance the demand and supply of credit. Hence, in 2007, the National Credit Act was implemented, which was a real game changer in the credit industry. The NCA helped to ensure that credit is granted responsibly and only to those who can afford it. It also helped to strengthen consumer protection, and one of the significant provisions that came with the introduction of the NCA was a debt relief measure in the form of legislated debt review process aimed to assist consumers with debt problems.
So now we had a National Credit Act. It was groundbreaking and very innovative. We also had this new debt review process, but we all had to figure out exactly what it was and how it would be done. It was both exciting and challenging. Many consumers were eager to try this new debt review process in order to deal with their over-indebtedness, and slowly the application numbers began to increase. In the early days, finding consumers who were interested in debt review wasn't too difficult, but what was quite challenging was for debt counsellors and credit providers to understand each other's processes.
Back then, we were presented with the challenge of figuring out exactly what the court process would be. Would these matters be only in the Magistrates Court or also in the High Court? We had to quickly figure out what a debt review application to court looked like, which documents to include, what would have to be stated in the affidavits. So in the early days, we weren't even sure who the applicant would be, the consumer or the debt counsellor. These were all things we had to quickly figure out because people were applying and they needed help. Another challenge we faced was that initially some courts were hesitant to hear the court matters, so they would often postpone the case or move it to the end of the court roll. Fortunately, all these challenges would eventually be overcome.
As the debt review industry matured, debt counsellors were able to negotiate repayment agreements between consumers and credit providers before a consumer becomes over-indebted. If both parties agree regarding the repayment plan, the debt counsellor has the option to approach the National Consumer Tribunal, also known as the NCT, to make the repayment plan an order. It is, however, unfortunate that not every case will fit the NCT criteria. As with any process, especially court proceedings, we had to figure out the processes set out by the NCT, which, to their credit, have improved drastically over the years. Initially, much like we had to figure out the court process, we had to figure out the NCT process as well. And after many years, the NCT has developed a smooth and painless system. Consumers experiencing financial difficulties should not delay seeking assistance. Consumers can contact a debt counsellor who will then attempt to reach a repayment plan with their credit providers before their financial troubles worsen, and then have that agreement made in order should they meet the requirements.
With the rapid increase in consumer numbers entering the debt review process, I think initially debt counsellors were probably not all prepared for what was coming. And very quickly realized what the huge administrative burden is on a debt counsellor in terms of managing a consumer's debt review portfolio. And debt counsellors had to quickly ensure that they have not only staff members to manage that administrative burden, but also they have the necessary infrastructure in terms of computer systems, laptops. It became evident, I think, to everybody that the only way to effectively manage this process was through software systems. As these software systems were implemented and developed, it made a massive difference in terms of how the DCs could process their consumer files. It also enabled the DCs to process and accommodate more clients. And without the systems and our software vendors being online, we would have had an extremely tough time during the last 2 to 3 years. So the market evolved naturally, and one of the natural components that was added to that was the implementation of the payment distribution agents. And we believe that the implementation of the payment distribution agents was critical to this industry and critical to ensure that consumers can have faith that their money is being dealt with in the appropriate fashion.
There is a real satisfaction that comes from helping consumers and allowing them to change their circumstances around. I think many of us feel this, and it's an amazing feeling. And I think the main thing for us is, or for me, that normally if unattached or unattended, the debt tends to kind of spiral out of control and get worse and worse. And it brings a lot of stress in home life, work life, personal life, health, and it brings a lot of problems. So the thing is, debt review changes all that. It really allows people to start afresh with a clean slate of what they want to do, and really allows them to have a break with the cycle that they might be in. And there is an unbelievable satisfaction that comes from being able to help consumers, get to this place that seems completely unreachable at times, and it seems very dark. I think many of us really thrive on that.
People who know me know that I'm passionate about client rehabilitation. I am convinced that financial distress is just one of the worst things that can happen to a person, a family, and it impacts society as a whole. And so I'm so grateful that I'm in a space where I actually can make a difference in the lives of people, significant difference, by assisting them. And so that's why it's just lovely to be able to work in this space and for, the credit providers that are buying into this whole debt review process.
For many consumers, debt review is a very successful process. However, it is not easy for them, and unfortunately, not everybody is successful. Debt counselors work extremely hard at the start of the process to get the consumers into debt review to make significant changes. We create proposals to the credit providers, new payment plans, get granted court orders in place, and then, for one reason or another, the consumer's circumstances changes dramatically, or they simply don't have staying power and drop out of the process. Consumer education is vitally important in the debt rehabilitation process.
Yes, it kind of breaks my heart because the situation is very difficult for us as registered debt counselors. It's not because we have wasted our time and energy, and we do feel real sympathy and empathy for the consumers out there, but we know how they are going to fall back into the stressful world of the collections process. So we do try to warn our clients. We do our best to help them avoid dropping out of the process, but sadly, many don't listen.
Consumers have faced a lot of challenges recently. If you look at the last few years, we've had the pandemic resulting in lockdown. A lot of people lost their income. Many others saw the income massively reduced. More recently, we have seen the natural disasters, like our clients endured the flooding in KZN. Even the best laid plans struggle to keep up with external factors like these.
Fortunately, when consumers in debt review hit hard times and are perhaps retrenched or suffer some sort of accident, so they cannot work for a while, they are able to make use of insurance to help cover their debt repayments. That product is called Credit Life Insurance. In fact, there are now many specialist insurance products just for people in debt review, which are designed to help when hard times arrive. For many consumers, these insurance products have been a lifeline, and it helped ensure the credit providers get their debt repayments as well. The insurance industry and the debt review industry have ended up working closely together to help protect these consumers.
These days, consumers have to be quite smart and cautious, as there's a growing trend with these get-out-of-debt review scams. People make all sorts of promises on social media, and some clients, especially those that don't talk to the debt counselor, fall victim to these scams and end up paying a lot of money to these scammers for nothing. Unfortunately, when they ultimately come back to us, there's very little we can do to help, as credit providers have already terminated their debt review as a result of non-payment.
One of the important things to remember about this whole process is that all of us are working together to try and rehabilitate the client. That's the end goal. The end goal is rehabilitation, and what that means is that we need to ensure that we do come up with these plans that are reasonable and affordable and sustainable for both the credit providers and for the debt and for the clients who are impacted, so that we can make sure that we get more and more and more of our clients to that end goal of being finally rehabilitated. At the start of this whole debt review process, clients were just falling off the wagon left, right, and center. And as we're maturing as an industry, what we're seeing is that we are better able to assist our clients, both from a debt counselor perspective and a credit provider perspective, to ensure that we hold their hand through this process and get them to the finish line, where they can one day, just enter the credit market again and be debt free and have this millstone off from around their neck.
The best part of our job is helping our clients settle all their debts and truly becoming financially free. Throughout the debt review process, debt counselors and credit providers work tirelessly to assist clients attain paid-up letters for each and every one of their debts. We submit paid-up letters to credit bureaus, and a clearance certificate is obtained and issued to the client to declare them officially debt-free. It's funny, but it's true. We are happiest when our clients are completely financially rehabilitated and no longer require our assistance. Upon exiting debt review, consumers re-enter the financial world with a whole new outlook on money. Using the experience from the program, they're able to handle credit wisely and start building a significantly better financial future for themselves and their families.
After so many years, it is now reasonably well established. It does have its challenges for consumers and those in the industry alike, though. But it is by far the most inspiring and satisfying work I've ever done. I love this industry, and I'm excited to be part of its evolution.